Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Jessica and today I am planning a really fun and exciting reading vlog. Today is February 1st and I am excited to get in a little bit of romance in the month of love, so to speak. We're not super big Valentine's Day people, but I just love the idea of a month that I can read romances in, and so that is what we are going to do. Specifically, I'm going to be reading some fantasy and sci-fi romances for this video. I have two lined up. The first one is going to be, it's on my Kindle, so I'll just pop it up here, Swordheart by Kingfisher. This is a book that was actually released several years ago, but is being republished this month by Bramble. I believe it's out on February, I'm gonna say 28th, but if it's not right, I'll pop it up here. February 28th, and I am so excited to read it. I actually started it last year and then didn't end up finishing it because I was not in the mood for a romance that month. It is the story of an older lady who has inherited an estate, and she's been trapped in her room by these horrible relatives of her. So she pulls a sword off the wall, and to her amazement, she finds that there is an enchanted swordsman living inside the sword. And so that's the setup of the book. It's a little bit of an adventure story, I think. I think I read about 30 pages of it the last time I tried to read it. So I'm just gonna go ahead and try to get through those 30 pages and continue on the book. I think it's going to be really fun and romantic, and if you know me, if you've been in my channel before, you know that I absolutely love Kingfisher. She is one of my favorite authors. She can do no wrong. I have loved everything by her that I have ever read, and so I'm really excited to get into some of the fantasy romance that she writes. I know that she has this one, and she also has the series that starts with, I believe, Paladin's Grace. I haven't read any of those either, so I'm excited to get into a little bit of that this year. The other book that I am planning to read is Ocean's Echo by Everina Maxwell. I don't know that much about this one. It's the second book in a series that starts with a book called Winter's Orbit, which I gave 5 stars to. That's an LGBT sci-fi romance that wasn't just about the romance. It also had some really excellent sci-fi world building. So I'm really looking forward to getting into this one, finding out what it's about. I know it follows different people than the first book, and it can be read as a standalone. So I'm really excited to read that one. So when we get to that, I will talk more about that. But right now, I think it is time for us to go ahead and get started on Swordheart. I'm back, and I'm going to report that I finished Swordheart and also that it was kind of a disappointment for me. I was going to do a midway update, but I was not feeling the book at about halfway through, so I just powered through to the end. And I think what I feel like is that I can really see the growth that Kingfisher has had as an author since she originally wrote this. I don't know exactly how long ago it was, but it wasn't any time recent. So this is going to be republished this month. I think it's worth getting if you're a really big fan of hers. For me, this was a little bit too long and a little bit too slow and kind of inconsistently paced. The main characters never felt exactly like real people to me, especially Hala, who is the female character, and her one personality quirk is that she is unable to stop talking and asking questions about things. And although that's kind of worked in as a reason for that later on in the book, it still was a little bit annoying to me. And then I felt like the connection between the two main characters was based entirely on physical attraction. I was really unable to connect to their romance on a deeper level. So This is going to be about a 3-star, and that is the lowest rating that I've ever given a T. Kingfisher book, and I'm really sad about it, but it's also been kind of a tough week. I have not felt like reading. It took me 5 days to get through that. I have really just like not wanted to do anything except scroll on my phone. And that is not healthy. That is not good. Got to step away. So in hopes of some escapism, I think we're going to move on to Ocean's Echo. So the first book in this series was 5 stars for me. It's one of the best sci-fi romances that I've ever read. It is definitely something that has great world building in addition to the romance. It's like not just about the characters and the romance, it's about like the world that they're in. And I know this is set in the same world but not following the same characters. I have chosen not to read the entire description because the description is very long and I feel like it's going to be spoilery. So I will be back in a little bit to update with what I think about the first section of this book, but I'm just going to go ahead and get started. It has been a few days since I updated you, and I am about 30%, you can see that, of the way into Ocean's Echo. And I'm really enjoying this book. I was not totally sure about it right at the beginning. It's a little bit slow at the beginning because I think this author does such a good job of really actually doing world building within a sci-fi romance. And I have seen people say that this book is actually about 70% sci-fi, 30% romance, and that does feel pretty accurate to me. So I'm going to explain a little bit of the setup. So this is set in the same large universe as the first book in the series, as Winter's Orbit, but there are no overlapping characters and we are in a completely different place. So you do not have to have read that book to read this one. You could start wherever you want. Although I would probably start with the other one because there are a few kind of callbacks that you'll pick up on if you've already read the first one. In this world, we have kind of a military-based society. And at some point in the past, they used this alien material to genetically modify soldiers and make them into either architects or readers. Readers are basically people who can read your mind. And architects are people who can write, as they say, on your mind and get you to do things, which are obviously both kind of terrifying. But it seems like for some reason, readers are much more feared than the architects. Although if you were me, I would tell you, I would much rather you know what I'm thinking than that you be able to tell me what to do. Our two main characters, Tennille, is it Tennille? I'm going to say that wrong. Tennille and Surit are readers and architects, and it's kind of like, in terms of the romance tropes, it's kind of a forced bonding kind of situation, if you want to think of it that way. What I like about these books is that they are like legit sci-fi. Like, this is good world building. I do not feel like anything has been skimped on. It feels like a real military sci-fi. It's just that at some point, not yet 30% of the way in, it's going to be a romance. They also, kind of with the tropes, they scratch this very specific kind of fanfic itch for me. I don't know how to explain that, but if you've read fanfic, like if you're a fanfic person, I think you're going to understand when I say that there are just some tropes. Forced arranged marriage. This one, like, you must bond together in some science-y way and you're being forced to. Like, that's a specific kind of trope if you've been in that world. And that's what's in here. And I'm really enjoying it. So I'm hoping to be able to read some more later, but today is Saturday and I have to work today. So I am just about to head into work. Got a lot of stuff to do. I am hiring for a new job at work right now, so I've got some phone screens that I've got to get through, which is not my most favorite thing in the world, but it'll be fun. And then I'll come back and maybe make some dinner and try to read some more. And then I am going to have 2 days off because I took Monday off since I'm working Saturday, and hopefully going to be able to get through a lot more of my book and then be able to tell you what I think about it. So I will see you in a little bit. back and I have finished Ocean's Echo, and I am here to give a report on it. So I think when I was talking about this book, I said that the first book in this series was about 50-50 romance and that this one was supposed to be less romance, and I would definitely agree with this. For the most part, outside of the kind of tropey, forced, fated bonding kind of situation, it was very much just a standard space opera, sci-fi, actually pretty well done. I enjoyed the world building. There was some carryover with that from the first book, definitely set in the same universe. Some stuff maybe you wouldn't have understood if you hadn't read the first book, because I think some of the things about the overall universe were not completely explained. But in general, very enjoyable. I liked our characters. They were still Tanal. I still found him difficult because he was so impulsive. He's very much the kind of character who just like lives life in the moment on, you know, by the seat of his pants, and is constantly doing things to just like irritate people and knock things over and see what happens. And to me, as somebody who is very much not that can be a little bit much. But I did enjoy him, and I really loved our other character. And their relationship was sweet. And it was not saccharine, and it does not end in a place that's like, I mean, it is a happy ever after because it is a romance book, but it's also not, it's not too much. It leaves it open-ended so that she could continue in this world. And I have to tell you, Everina Maxwell is definitely still at the top of my sci-fi romance authors, and I would read just a straight sci-fi, I feel like, that she wrote, because this was excellent. I really enjoyed it. I gave it 4 stars, and it's going to be my top recommendation from this vlog. So of the 2 books that I read, this and Stormheart, I can't talk now. Of the 2 books that I read, this and Swordheart, I would recommend this one higher. I feel like if you want to read some T. Kingfisher, I would recommend one of her other books first. I did enjoy Swordheart, but it was too long. It was too long, and the world building was just not what I really expect from her, and it kind of meandered a little bit in the middle. And I feel like it was obviously an earlier work, but I did enjoy it. So if you are a completionist the way that I am, you're definitely going to want to read that anyway. And if you love sci-fi romance, pick up this series. It's so good. It's so good. I love it. And I would highly recommend it. And I have had a good time this week reading fantasy and sci-fi romances for a little bit of escapism. And I hope that you all have a fantastic week. Let me know down in the comments if you've read anything this week that you've really been enjoying. I will see you in the next video. Goodbye.